Hello and welcome to another edition of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill. Welcome. Thanks for listening.
We have a little bit of a new audio setup today, so be patient with us this week. Hopefully it turns out good, but we're trying something new. If it goes wrong, we'll make sure we correct it as fast as possible. Thank you for that.
Okay, well, I'll start us off with a myriad of sport business moments. They're all little tidbits I thought were interesting. First thing, I was at the Oklahoma State Pitt game yesterday, which was a rout, and people were leaving in droves, including the student section, and there was a blurb on the scoreboard from the Pitt Athletic Department offering the students a free drink if they stay, which I thought was kind of desperate. So that happened yesterday. We get Jerry Jones inserting himself in Roger Goodell's contract extension talks, even though he is not on the compensation committee, but he's described as a de facto seventh member because he's been very influential in everything that's going on in the NFL. And as we were talking offline, I mean, here you have a guy that was absolutely influential in the Raider move to Las Vegas and absolutely influential on the stadium decision in LA. And his company Legends is selling premium in both of those venues. And I don't know, it just seems like he's exerting an awful lot of influence. And you could argue that he's the de facto commissioner if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I'm sure his job is very complicated at the end of the day, but I always feel like being the commissioner of the NFL, everybody wants to be a part of the NFL. There's an official ladder of the NFL. So you're pretty much just accepting checks and being a spokesperson. And as a spokesperson, he's basically just been a lightning rod. Like, no matter what he does, he screws up, but it's the people yell at him and not the owners, which has been, I think, great for the owners. He's been like a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at all the social stuff, and I think, I mean, the Ezekiel Elliott stuff, I think, is tough, because I don't know we obviously don't have access to what the NFL has and doesn't have. But as far as the stuff that leaks go, I mean, there was a text from her threatening to do this to him if he screwed her over. And there was a witness that basically said, that she said she was going to do this to him, like blackmail him. And as far as we know, we haven't seen any evidence. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott has not been the smartest guy off the field, without a doubt. He's done some really, even after this thing came out, he got caught pulling that girl's shirt down at a club. Like, he's made some mistakes. But it seems like in this case, like, he hasn't technically done anything. The NFL's not giving us any evidence for a 6-game suspension, and I think the courts obviously agreed when they withheld, when they overruled the NFL.
Yeah, they made a whole disaster out of this whole sexual misconduct thing.
And when you go back to Brady and last year, and as much as, I definitely don't want to defend the Patriots in any sort of way, like, Brady obviously made a few missteps with, destroying the phone, but it seemed like science and reason pretty much said that, nothing was worth, there wasn't anything to it, and yet he still got suspended for the full 4 games. So it seems like he's just botched things over and over again as far as these suspensions go.
Yeah. Well, I also want to talk about Amy Trask, former president of the Raiders, was asked, and she's now a CBS commentator, was asked about jersey patches on NFL uniforms. And she pointed out the fact that a lot of the old guard owners who have been opposed to it don't have anywhere near the debt as some of the new owners that have come into the league. And the new owners that have come into the league are the ones that really need to look at some different revenue streams to help offset their investment. So she was indicating she thought the NFL would be definitely considering it, and it might be very likely that they would adopt the jersey patch, which I found really interesting.
Now, along those lines, the older owners obviously have, they came from older money and they bought the franchises when they were far cheaper, and they've obviously grown into monumentally expensive, valuable.
Most notably being the Steelers, which were bought for $2,500.
Bought for $2,500, right. But are the new owners, it doesn't seem like the NFL is making little bit of money. It seems like the NFL is still making money hand over fist.
Oh, they're still making money, but look at the fees they had to pay, and when the Raiders are going to go move into Las Vegas, now they're going to have to pay to go in there, and Chargers are going to have to pay to move into Los Angeles, and all that money. That's a lot of money, $700, $800 million.
It is, but it takes.
And so
there's only a few.
They're looking for ways to offset that. They're not, they don't want to, they're not getting a piece of that, so they want to try and get some of their money back.
True, but I mean, are these guys just getting in over their heads, or they not understand what the NFL is a golden goose?
No, they want to be profitable like everybody else. They just want it quicker.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna look at other ways to make money. That the owners, I mean, Steelers look at $2,500. You don't really care about a jersey patch or not, do you?
No.
I mean, you made a ridiculous ROI on your investment. But some of the guys that just has to pay $800 million for a franchise expansion fee and everything else that has to go with it. I mean, you want to recoup part of your investment. You want to be profitable quicker than later.
Right. When you look at the money the players make versus the money the owners make, you're going to be profitable pretty quickly. Maybe not next year, but fast. So
sure, but
you still have stadium license deals.
You want to get an ROI. You want to get money coming in off that investment. You're not. If you just paid $800 million, you're not making money right away. You're trying to recoup your investment, and these guys want to recoup their investment quicker than later.
Right, but I mean, you still have stadium. You have your TV. Stadium kind of the TV money.
You still have revenue coming in, Chase. But again, they spent more money than anybody else. Therefore, they want to get a return on their investment quicker. They're not going to be patient. It's not who they are.
Well, the old owners are going to be patient.
The old owners don't really care. They're fine.
Yeah.
But I would assume that they're going to go along with whatever the majority wants to go along with, and that's going to put more money in their pockets. But more of their money is going to be 100% profit as opposed to some of the newer owners.
I'd be interested to see where, obviously, Jerry Jones and then, of course, Robert Kraft come down on this thing. Because they seem to be two of the more influential people anyway.
And I guarantee you they'll be for selling patch on jersey.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then I want to give a shout out to the Atlanta United, which set an MLS attendance record with over 70,000 people. And Atlanta has had a history of poor attendance in their professional sports for years and years and years. And this MLS team is just rocking it in Atlanta. So I found it really interesting, and so kudos to them. 70,000 people. It's pretty incredible.
For Atlanta, that's really incredible.
Yep. And my last sports business moment, even though it's not necessarily just business, is the Cleveland Indians winning streak, which finally got Cleveland people off their ass and going to some baseball games. I mean, it's embarrassing that you had a team that's playing as well as they are, and they were drawing 17,000 to 22,000 people, even during the streak. And to me, that's an embarrassment. But Clevelanders finally got off their ass to go support their team, and it's some crowds over 30,000 during the latter part of the streak.
Yeah, 22 games is impressive.
Very impressive.
It's the longest in the American League, right? But not the longest in baseball.
Yep. And the one in the National League is the Giants, that when they were in New York, and one of the games was a tie. So it wasn't that they won, they just didn't lose that game.
It belongs to that a lot,
so
right?
When they kept the streak going, you had that tie in there. But, we didn't have to deal with it now because it still stands. So, but kudos to the Indians, and I hope they draw well during the upcoming playoffs.
Yeah. It's tough baseball, there's just so many. I know even during a streak, but there are so many games, and it's not cheap to go. It's still not cheap to go to a game with parking. Not to defend the people of Cleveland too much, but,
No, they should go to the games.
Plus the Browns have started.
Yep. So what else is up?
Well, we had week 1 of the NFL season, and I guess it was probably a pretty typical week 1 where we don't know what anybody really is.
No.
Because obviously the Patriots
Although we know that the Chiefs are interesting.
The Chiefs are interesting, and they beat Philadelphia today, who was considered a pretty good team.
Mm-hmm.
So they're 2-0. Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce all look great. I think what we mentioned last week, I think when they jumped up 15 spots to draft Patrick Mahomes, who looks like an absolute young stud at quarterback, everyone just assumed they were sort of punting on the season. But Alex Smith has looked as good as anybody in the NFL.
With a couple of really interesting weapons in Smith and Hill.
And don't forget Kelce.
And Kelce, yeah.
Right. Because even though...
It'll be interesting to see how they play.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle did not look great, and they were everybody's, pick for the NFC. See,
the Bengals haven't scored yet after 2 games. Haven't scored a touchdown.
No, the Bengals are the Bengals. I mean, the Marvin Lewis is still their coach somehow, no matter what happens with that team.
Interesting, they fired the offensive coordinator and they'll fire the guy that hired him.
I know. Well, his contract ends this year, so it's hard to believe he will get it. He'll be back, no matter how much
I
the
would
owner
be
seems to like
shocked
him.
at this point.
Yeah, you look around the NFL and it's, you look at sort of the Super Bowl favorites. Seattle got beat pretty handily against Green Bay and didn't look fantastic. Even their defense looked a little shaky. Pittsburgh through 2 weeks is obviously won't spend too much time on the Steelers, but they've not really looked great. The defense has looked good, but the defense also played the Cleveland Browns, and they played a backup quarterback at last minute in Minnesota today. So, give the defense credit, but also keep it in context of who they've actually gone up against.
Yep.
The Patriots are 1-2, and it looks like Gronkowski might be missing some time now after he got hurt on that back injury. It's, and I don't know, you look around the league, it's tough to figure out who's.
Well, the Broncos are leading the Cowboys. Right down the field, scored a touchdown in the first possession.
And the Cowboys looked like they were the most predictable team that was going to be what they said, run the ball, play solid defense, make some nice play-action passes from Dak Prescott, which is what they did last week. They still have plenty of time to come back, but they were the team that at least looked like the team we knew from last year.
I'm excited to watch the Falcons and Packers tonight.
Very much so. I'm, to see. I think Atlanta won last week, but I'm still to see if they can really get over that Super Bowl loss. It was still just fascinating. Just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my entire life that they lost. I wasn't surprised because of who they were playing, but still pretty amazing they lost that game.
So college football, Clemson looks very good. Very good.
Number 2 in the polls, moving right up.
Did they jump Oklahoma?
They did.
Okay. Well, yeah, they looked every bit to me, and they looked pretty impressive. I can't see anybody beating them. So I can see them back in the college football playoff. I wanted to talk about some other things that drive me. I just can't figure out, why Kansas has a football team. I think they should punt, drop out of the Big 12, and join the Big East and dominate in basketball, because they're just wasting their time on football.
And they can't be making any money with that program, right?
I wouldn't think so.
Because college football is really the top teams that are making money and the ones that are winning. And Kansas, even though
it was a nice day for the MAC yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was a great day for the MAC.
They beat Nebraska and they beat Kansas. Maybe that's where those teams should belong.
Well, Nebraska never seems.
MAC teams up. Maybe we should have relegation, like they do in English soccer.
I think that's fantastic. I would love that for the NBA, to be perfectly honest. Have the D League champ come up and the worst team go down, and that maybe that's how you get rid of tanking for the NBA, as opposed to trying to tweak the draft formula. Now you just have it so that if you end up in last place, you're going to spend the season in the D League, and the other team is going to pop. They'll have a roaming, D League team that gets to pop up instead.
Yeah, it's hard to believe a month from now when we're doing our show that the NBA and the NHL will be in full bloom.
I know the NHL. I'm always as much as a hockey fan as I'm always shocked that they come out that they start as soon as they do.
Yeah,
because it's really hard for them to dominate headlines.
2 weeks before the NBA, so they're all going head to head with the NFL. But for hockey, I don't think it matters because hockey fans are hockey fans first and foremost.
I agree, but I sort of feel like maybe those hockey. They've got some, besides obviously you have, you still have your Ovechkins and your Crosby still in the prime of their careers. And in the last couple of years, you've had just this influx of really good young talent. Really exciting hockey being played. And, if there was a way to escape to be, because they don't really have a time where they're the dominant sport. Because they start with the baseball playoffs in the NFL. Then they're going head-to-head with the NBA, and baseball's back around. Like you said, I know hockey fans are hockey fans, and hockey fans will figure out what's going on. They'll watch the games. But if there was a way for them to have, a month where they were sort of dominating the sports headlines, and maybe that's not even possible at this point. But
yeah, I don't know if it is or it isn't.
And I don't really know where you would move the season to, because everybody else is just making their season. Everybody wants to be 12 months, and it's kind of hard for hockey to pop up when the other teams are the 12-month teams, or 12-month sports between basketball and football. And with potentially soccer. Is soccer already usurped hockey?
It's a crowded landscape, to say the least.
Yeah. Very much so. There was a big controversial story in esports. It seems like it's, sort of sorting itself out.
Okay, what was
I
it?
forget the young woman's name. We had a young woman in South Korea who was just destroying people. And of course, the outcry came that she was a cheater. Because there's no way that she could be that good and better than everybody else at the same game of Overwatch. But obviously, when they had the tournament, everybody's on the computers in front of everybody else, and she continued to dominate. So I think that's one thing that esports sort of has going for it, is that men and women can compete completely on the same levels in that sport, or that
Ooh, that's interesting take.
that
I like
activity.
that take.
There's never going to be a reason. There's no physical dominance. There's no, it's just hand-eye
That's
coordination,
reaction time.
hand-eye coordination and intellect and,
Yeah.
brain processing. So men and women can go head-to-head at all levels, at all ages, and it is a young person sport, obviously, because it seems like when you get, it's almost like tennis. You get to a certain age and their neurons click a little bit quicker than yours. But from a selling standpoint, I think that's something that esports can maybe tap into, is that, they're the first, I think as far as I can tell, they're the first completely gender biased sport where there's no gender unbiased. Unbiased?
Well, there's no gender bias in the sport.
There's no gender bias in the
If you're
sport.
good, you compete. Yeah,
Right.
You're right. I like that.
And that's, I think,
Because most of it has to deal with size and physical strength, and that's why you say they can't compete. But this is just quick twitch muscles and eyesight, anticipation, intellect. Yeah, this could be it. This could be the leveler.
it could. And especially, in the last 10 years, you really, you have professional girl gamers that are, I think there was a time where people sort of joked around that the girl gamers were just, there to,
They were just fleshing out. They wanted to have a boys' team and a girls' team. Yeah,
right. But now,
because a bunch of them have that,
right.
and now you don't necessarily have to have that.
No. And I think that could be fantastic. Or an all-girls team just competing against all-boys teams and just wiping them off the floor, which is also very possible. So I'll be interested to see where it goes, because like I said, I think it's got some potential in those lines. I know back to last week, and I read some more articles that, as far as adding it as a sport, which I think they should do, because I think, they could be ahead of the times rather than behind the times, because I think it's going to happen eventually. And why not be one of the, the forebears of the people that started it, as opposed to finally catching on? But they still talk about the violence, even if it's cartoon violence. So that's sort of where we're at. And I don't know how you resolve that, because that technically is what a lot of video games are going to come down to. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, but it's a good point though. I like your point on that.
And like I said, it was, she was, they immediately accused her of cheating. So I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't believe that she was that good. But, there you go.
Was.
She proved it. Do you have a food minute for us this week? I know we're getting a little...
I do have a food minute. And I was in Pittsburgh, and interestingly enough, you live in New Orleans. And I'm actually going to talk about a New Orleans-style restaurant in Pittsburgh I went to called Muddy Waters.
Muddy Waters.
Muddy Waters Oyster Bar. And the T-shirts read, "We're some bad mother shuckers." But I had something, I had an appetizer, Jason, that you would absolutely love. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Sweet potato cornbread.
That sounds really good.
It was amazing. And the difference I noticed right away was in the texture, because cornbread can be pretty crumbly and fall apart.
Right, be kind of dry.
But with the sweet potato, it was moist and it didn't fall apart. And the sweet potato cornbread was unbelievable. It was really good. And it also had a whole snapper, which they fried the snapper and it served it upright on my plate. It was amazing. It was great looking and it was really, really good. It was a great restaurant. Not a giant restaurant, not really big, but kind of intimate, kind of a lot of fun. Just a really good place, a good way to go.
And then off there, your mom said it tasted, and you've been around enough to know that it tasted pretty authentic. Like a lot of times when
Pretty authentic, yeah. Mom, I didn't have gumbo, but Mom did, and our other friends had gumbo. It was loaded with seafood. And everybody said how authentic it was. Everybody at the table had been in New Orleans before, and everybody thought it was really, really good. And then they had a lobster crawfish po' boy. So it's like it was a lobster crawfish roll.
Okay.
So it looked just like a New England lobster roll, but it had lobster and crawfish in, and 3 or 4 people had that and loved that as well. So Muddy Waters Oyster Bar in the East Liberty section of Pittsburgh, and that was outstanding.
Wow. Nice. I mean, I want to find sweet potato cornbread now, because I enjoy cornbread for the most part, but as you said, it does have a tendency, you find it's just really dry and...
Yeah. And a lot of times it just falls apart on your plate, but this was really, really solid. And I had never seen it before. It was something I had not experienced before.
All right. Well, I don't have a food minute.
What's your thing you would like to see? Something you would like to see. What's your moment this week?
Oh, I thought this was my recommendation for the week. My bad. I slipped.
Okay.
Well, my recommendation for this week, and I'll put a little bit of disclaimer on it. It does have some violent imagery in it, and it does have some, I guess, disturbing content. It's an 8-part miniseries. It's just the entire series is one story. It's called The Sinner, and it's on USA of all networks. It's a mystery. It's got Bill Pullman and Jessica Biel, the 2 leads. And what hooked me is I was watching the beginning, and there's a mom, Jessica Biel. She's sitting on the beach with her son, feeding him apples, and her husband. And there's a couple right ahead of her, and she's kind of watching them. They're playing this song, and she takes the knife she was cutting up the apple with, runs over, and just stabs this guy to death. And claims she's never met him before, has never seen him before. And then sort of the mystery sort of unfolds, and it gets pretty complicated after that. But it's been pretty enjoyable, and I'm, as you know, I'm a big fan of beginning, middles, and ends. And one of the reasons I even tried this show was because it was only 8 episodes. So I knew I was going to get a satisfying conclusion. They weren't going to try to drag things out and make it insane. So it's definitely worth watching.
Okay.
I mean, I guess as far as...
I've looked at it before. I have not sat down to watch it. I thought I don't want to try and catch up now. I think I'll just wait till around the holidays and I'll get back and watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, I think that's... I don't think it's... At least of the water coolers that I'm at, it's definitely not like water cooler talk. So,
well, speaking of water coolers, what's the buzz on the movie Mother?
It's
from
bad.
Where you are.
As some people may or may not know, I do work in film and television, and there are a few Darren Aronofsky just absolute lovers that just they can't say anything bad about anything he does. But a big talk about Aronofsky is obviously that he's a little bit pretentious. And that his films are sort of reflect that. And they're a lot of style over substance and him sort of trying to make himself seem smarter than everybody else in the room. And that's sort of what I've got from Mother, is that it's not really, much. And the critics have seemed to not have enjoyed it very much. But
no, the movie seems very polarizing. The fans are going and being upset that they just were taken advantage of, and it just seems very, very polarizing. I haven't seen one quite this polarizing before. Yeah,
I think, they shot a great trailer. I mean, that trailer was just...
The trailer was really... when I saw the trailer, I thought I wanted to see the movie.
Right. I mean,
the first 3 reviews have convinced me otherwise.
And that's how it's been for most people, I think. I mean, the people that have seen it have all sort of felt the same way. I mean, you had a great trailer. You had Aronofsky, who's done some pretty cool movies. You had, Jennifer Lawrence, who's one of the biggest stars in the world, along with Michelle Pfeiffer and Javier Bardem. Like, it seemed like it had a lot for everybody. And I think in general, our country really likes a good mystery. But apparently this just isn't it. So.
Okay. Wow.
But because it is, now that it's become this, I almost want to see it more on some weird level. Just so I can weigh in, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's your career, it's your vocation. I think you probably should see it, and you should, weigh in on it. And maybe you convince me I need to see it.
Maybe. Like I said, I've heard from some people I respect quite a bit, and they seem to think we don't really need to see it. So we'll have to see.
Okay.
Do you have any recommendations this week besides the restaurant?
Cold, Cold Ground by Adrian McGinney, and it's set in Ireland during the Troubles, which are the 1980s, and it's part one of what looks to be a trilogy, and it was a very good read, a very enjoyable read. My good friend Dan Gosser recommended it to me, and I really enjoyed reading it. It was really, really good. I'm going to read the next two.
Nice. Very nice.
But it's just one that's really well written, and I really like the characters. And usually, if I like the characters, that plays a big part of my enjoyment. I really like good character development, good characters that have good dialogue and good interaction. You know, I need more than just a plot. I need the characters to make me really believe and really want to see the plot.
And this obviously had that, so.
Yeah, it really did. I was really, really blown away with it.
All right. Well, looks like we're coming up on about a half hour already. Again, please go to iTunes and rate us. It doesn't take a long time. We'd really appreciate it. 5 stars would be the best, but, you know, we'll take an honest rating just to get the ratings up there. If you can, patreon.com, Sutton Impact Family Style. Join the family and contribute if you feel like it. And that's about it for this week.
All right. Well, I'm headed to Nashville next weekend.
Ooh.
So I will have some. I got to make sure I've got a couple good restaurant reviews for everybody in Nashville.
Nashville.
Nashville is a happening city.
It really, really is.
I really like Nashville. All right. Signing off. We'll talk to y'all next week.